The warm summer sun beat down on the bustling park, filled with the laughter of children and the chatter of parents. Among them was Karen, a woman with an air of entitlement that seemed to radiate from her very core. As she strolled through the park, her sharp eyes scanned the crowd, searching for any sign of disarray or deviation from her expectations. Suddenly, her gaze fixed on a group of children playing nearby, their joyful shrieks piercing the tranquil atmosphere. Without hesitation, Karen strode over to the group, her lips pursed in a disapproving frown. "Excuse me," she bellowed, her voice cutting through the din. "Could you please keep it down? Some of us are trying to enjoy a peaceful afternoon." The children, startled by her sudden intrusion, fell silent, their eyes wide with confusion. One of the mothers, a kind-faced woman named Sarah, approached Karen, her brow furrowed with concern. "Is everything all right, ma'am?" Sarah asked, her tone gentle but firm. "The children are just playing, as they should be in a public park." Karen's eyes narrowed, and a sneer twisted her lips. "Well, they're being far too disruptive," she snapped. "I shouldn't have to listen to that incessant noise while I'm trying to relax." Sarah's expression hardened, and she opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, Karen's gaze fell upon Sarah's young son, who had wandered a few feet away. "And look at that one," Karen spat, pointing an accusatory finger at the boy. "Aren't you going to keep a better eye on your child? He's running all over the place, completely unsupervised." The boy, startled by Karen's outburst, froze in his tracks, his eyes brimming with tears. Sarah rushed to his side, wrapping him in a protective embrace. "How dare you speak to my son that way?" Sarah exclaimed, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "He's just a child, playing in a public park. If you have a problem with that, then perhaps you should leave." Karen's face flushed with indignation, and she opened her mouth to unleash another tirade. But before she could, a new voice cut through the tension. "Is there a problem here?" a man asked, his deep, commanding tone resonating through the air. All eyes turned to the newcomer, a tall, well-dressed individual who exuded an aura of authority. It was Sarah's husband, a respected lawyer named Michael, who had witnessed the altercation from a distance and rushed to his family's defense. Karen's face paled as she recognized the man, and her bravado faltered. She knew that with Michael's legal expertise, she had met her match. The confrontation was about to take a dramatic turn. Karen's face paled as she recognized the man, and her bravado faltered. She knew that with Michael's legal expertise, she had met her match. The confrontation was about to take a dramatic turn. Well, if it isn't the famous lawyer himself," Karen sneered, desperately trying to regain her composure. "I should have known you'd be involved in this little incident." Michael's expression remained calm and unwavering as he stepped closer, his eyes locked on Karen's. "I'm not sure what the issue is here, but I won't stand by and allow you to harass my family," he said, his voice low and measured. Karen scoffed, her bravado returning in full force. "Your family? Please, these children are nothing but a nuisance, disrupting the peace of this park. I have every right to demand they keep it down." Sarah, her protective instincts still in high gear, stepped forward, her hands trembling with a mixture of fear and righteous indignation. "How dare you speak about our children that way? They're just playing, like any normal, healthy child would. If anyone is the problem here, it's you and your entitled attitude." Karen's eyes flashed with a dangerous gleam, and she opened her mouth to unleash another tirade. But before she could, Michael raised his hand, silencing her with a single authoritative gesture. "Mrs. Karen, I must insist that you refrain from insulting or harassing my family," he said, his voice firm and unyielding. "If you continue this behavior, I will have no choice but to take legal action." The threat of legal action seemed to strike a chord with Karen, and her expression shifted from one of defiance to one of cautious concern. She glanced around the park, suddenly aware of the growing number of onlookers who had gathered to witness the confrontation. Realizing that she was rapidly losing the upper hand, Karen took a deep breath and forced a smile. "Well, I certainly didn't mean to cause any trouble," she said, her tone dripping with false sincerity. "I was simply trying to enjoy a peaceful afternoon, but I suppose I got a bit carried away. Let's just forget this ever happened, shall we?" Michael narrowed his eyes, unconvinced by her sudden change of heart. "I'm afraid it's not that simple, Mrs. Karen. Your actions have had a profound impact on my family, and I won't let this go unchecked." Karen's smile faltered, and a flicker of fear flashed across her face. She knew that Michael was not one to be trifled with, and the prospect of facing legal consequences was enough to make her reconsider her approach. As the tension in the air thickened, the stage was set for a confrontation that would test the limits of Karen's entitled behavior and the resolve of the family she had so carelessly targeted. The confrontation with Karen had left the family shaken, but Michael was determined to ensure that her actions had lasting consequences. He knew that letting the incident slide would only embolden Karen and encourage her entitled behavior. Later that evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, Michael broached the subject. "I want you all to know that I'm not going to let this go," he said, his voice grave. "Karen's behavior was completely unacceptable, and I'm going to make sure she's held accountable." Sarah reached across the table, placing her hand on Michael's. "I know, dear," she said, her eyes filled with a mixture of concern and resolve. "But I don't want this to turn into a protracted legal battle. The children have been through enough." Michael nodded, understanding his wife's concerns. "I know, and that's why I'm going to approach this carefully. I'm going to start by contacting the park authorities and seeing if they have any record of similar incidents involving Karen. If we can establish a pattern of behavior, it will strengthen our case." The children, who had been uncharacteristically quiet during the conversation, perked up at the mention of our case. The eldest, a sharp-witted 12-year-old named Emma, spoke up. "Does that mean we'll have to testify or something?" she asked, her brow furrowed with concern. Michael offered her a reassuring smile. "Not necessarily, sweetheart. I'll do my best to handle this without involving you directly. But if it comes to that, I want you to know that your voices will be heard, and your experiences will be taken into account." As the family continued their discussion, a knock at the door interrupted them. Michael, expecting perhaps a neighbor or a delivery, opened the door to find a police officer standing on the porch, a serious expression on his face. "Mr. Michael, I'm afraid I have some concerning news," the officer said, his tone grave. "Earlier today, we received a report of a disturbance in the park, and the witness described a woman matching Karen's description. We've been trying to locate her, but it seems she's disappeared." Michael's heart sank, and a sense of dread washed over him. "What exactly happened?" he asked, bracing himself for the worst. The officer took a deep breath before continuing. "Well, sir, it appears that after her confrontation with your family, Karen got into her car and drove off in a hurry. Witnesses reported that she was acting erratically and seemed to be under the influence of something." Sarah, who had joined Michael at the door, let out a gasp of horror. "You don't think she wouldn't have done something terrible, would she?" she asked, her voice trembling. The officer's expression darkened. "I'm afraid that's exactly what we're concerned about, ma'am. Karen's car was found abandoned near a local bridge, and we've launched a search operation. I'm sorry to say, but it's possible that she may have, well, you understand." Michael felt the blood drain from his face as the gravity of the situation sank in. His family's confrontation with Karen had taken an unexpected and potentially tragic turn. As the search for Karen continued, the family braced themselves for the unthinkable, their lives forever altered by the events that had unfolded in the park. The news of Karen's disappearance had sent shockwaves through the community, and the search operation was in full swing. Michael and Sarah found themselves caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty, their hearts heavy with the realization that their confrontation with Karen may have had dire consequences. As the police scoured the area around the abandoned car, Michael and Sarah waited anxiously, their fingers intertwined, their faces etched with concern. The children, sensing the gravity of the situation, remained uncharacteristically quiet, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and confusion. Hours turned into days, and the search continued, but there was no sign of Karen. The police had canvassed the area, interviewed witnesses, and even enlisted the help of local search and rescue teams, but the elusive woman remained missing. Michael, his legal expertise now turned inward, tried to remain objective, but the emotional toll of the situation was evident. "I can't help but feel responsible for this," he confessed to Sarah, his voice barely above a whisper. "If only I had handled the situation differently, maybe this could have been avoided." Sarah reached out, gently cupping Michael's face in her hands. "Darling, this is not your fault," she said, her eyes filled with unwavering support. "Karen's actions are her own, and she alone is responsible for the choices she made. We can't blame ourselves for her erratic behavior." The children, overhearing their parents' conversation, gathered around, offering their own words of encouragement. "Dad, you did the right thing," Emma said, her voice steady and reassuring. "You were trying to protect us, and that's what matters." Michael's expression softened, and he pulled his family into a tight embrace, drawing strength from their unwavering support. In that moment, he knew that regardless of the outcome, he had the love and trust of those who mattered most. As the search continued, a glimmer of hope emerged when a witness came forward, reporting a sighting of a woman matching Karen's description near the edge of the park. The police immediately followed up on the lead, and the family held their breath, praying for a resolution to the agonizing ordeal. Time seemed to stand still as the minutes ticked by, the silence punctuated only by the faint sounds of the ongoing search. Then, suddenly, a call came in. The police had located Karen, and she was being transported to the hospital, her condition critical. Michael and Sarah rushed to the hospital, their hearts pounding with a mixture of relief and dread. As they entered the emergency room, they were met by a somber-faced doctor, whose words would forever change the trajectory of their lives. As Michael and Sarah rushed into the emergency room, they were met by a somber-faced doctor, whose words would forever change the trajectory of their lives. "Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, I'm afraid I have some difficult news," the doctor began, his gaze heavy with empathy. "When the police found Karen, she was in a critical condition. It appears she attempted to take her own life." Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in a gesture of pure shock and anguish. Michael, his face pale, steeled himself as the doctor continued. "We've done everything we can, but I'm afraid Karen's condition is very serious. She's stable for now, but the next few hours will be crucial in determining her prognosis." Michael swallowed hard, his mind racing with a million questions. What happened? How did this happen? He asked, his voice laced with a mixture of disbelief and concern. The doctor sighed deeply, his expression grave. "From what the police have gathered, it seems that after her confrontation with your family, Karen got into her car in a highly agitated state. Witnesses reported that she was driving erratically and appeared to be under the influence of something." Sarah's eyes widened, and she reached out to grasp Michael's hand, seeking his steadying presence. "Oh God," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We never meant for this to happen. We were just trying to protect our family." The doctor nodded solemnly. "I understand, and I can assure you that the police are conducting a thorough investigation. However, the focus now is on Karen's medical condition and her well-being." Michael's brow furrowed as he processed the information. Is there any indication of what led her to this? Was there a history of mental health issues or underlying problems? The doctor's expression shifted, and he hesitated momentarily before speaking. "I'm afraid the details are still unclear, but our preliminary assessment suggests that Karen may have been struggling with severe depression and anxiety. We've also discovered evidence of past suicide attempts." Sarah's grip on Michael's hand tightened, and she felt her heart sink. Depression? Anxiety? but she always seemed so together, so in control. The doctor nodded sympathetically. That's often the case with mental health issues. The outward appearances can be deceiving, and many people suffer in silence. Now, I must urge you to prepare yourselves, as Karen's condition is touch and go. We'll do everything we can to help her, but the road ahead may be a long and difficult one. As the doctor departed, leaving Michael and Sarah to grapple with the shocking revelations, a sense of guilt and uncertainty washed over them. They had confronted Karen, never realizing the depths of her internal struggle, and now they found themselves caught in the aftermath of a tragedy that had the potential to change their lives forever. In the days that followed, Michael and Sarah found themselves navigating a maze of emotions and uncertainty. Karen's condition remained critical, and the doctors warned that her recovery would be a long and arduous journey. The revelation that Karen had been struggling with severe depression and anxiety had left the family reeling. They had never imagined that the woman they had confronted in the park harbored such deep-seated personal demons. As they waited anxiously by Karen's bedside, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of guilt. "If only we had known," she whispered to Michael, her eyes brimming with tears. "Maybe we could have helped her, or at least been more understanding." Michael squeezed his wife's hand, his expression somber. "I know, Sarah, but we can't blame ourselves. Karen's actions were her own, and she alone is responsible for the choices she made. All we can do now is hope and pray that she pulls through." The children, too, struggled to come to terms with the situation. Emma, the eldest, had always been a compassionate and insightful child, and she grappled with the complexity of the events. "It's not fair," she said one evening, her voice laced with a maturity beyond her years. "Karen was so mean to us, but now we find out she was hurting so much. I feel bad for her, but I'm also still angry about how she treated us." Michael and Sarah understood their daughter's conflicted emotions. "It's okay to feel that way, honey," Sarah said, pulling Emma into a comforting embrace. "Life is rarely black and white. Sometimes people's actions are a reflection of their own inner turmoil, but that doesn't excuse the hurt they've caused." As the family continued to navigate the emotional aftermath, a surprising development unfolded. One day, as Michael and Sarah were visiting Karen's bedside, a woman approached them, her expression a mix of nervousness and determination. "Excuse me, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson," the woman said, her voice trembling slightly. "My name is Fiona, and I'm Karen's sister. I heard about what happened, and I wanted to come and apologize." Michael and Sarah exchanged a puzzled glance, not quite sure how to respond. Fiona took a deep breath and continued, "I know what Karen did was unforgivable, and I'm not here to make excuses for her. But the truth is, I've been worried about her for a long time. Our family has a history of mental health issues, and Karen has been struggling in silence for years." Tears welled up in Fiona's eyes, and she paused to compose herself. "I should have been there for her, should have tried to get her help. But I was so wrapped up in my own life that I didn't see the warning signs. And now, because of my own neglect, she's fighting for her life." Michael and Sarah listened intently, their hearts heavy with the weight of Fiona's words. As they absorbed the unexpected revelation, they realized that the story of Karen's downfall was far more complex than they had initially imagined. As Fiona's words hung in the air, Michael and Sarah found themselves grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. The realization that Karen's troubles were rooted in a family history of mental health issues and neglect had added an unexpected layer of complexity to the situation. Sarah reached out, placing a gentle hand on Fiona's arm. "I can't imagine how difficult this must be for you," she said, her voice laced with empathy. "But you're here now, and that's what matters." Fiona nodded, her expression a mix of gratitude and anguish. "I should have been here sooner," she said, her voice trembling. "If only I had paid more attention, maybe I could have prevented all of this." Michael, ever the voice of reason, stepped forward, his gaze steady and understanding. Hindsight is a cruel thing, Fiona. We can't change the past, but we can focus on the present and do what we can to help Karen moving forward. Fiona's eyes widened, and she looked up at Michael with a newfound sense of hope. You be willing to help her? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sarah reached out and took Fiona's hand, squeezing it gently. Of course we would, she said, her expression warm and reassuring. Karen may have acted horribly towards us, but we understand now that her actions were rooted in a much deeper struggle. We want to help her, if we can. Fiona's face lit up with a glimmer of hope, and she reached out to embrace the Johnsons, her tears of gratitude streaming down her cheeks. Thank you so much, she breathed. I can't tell you how much this means to me and to Karen. As the days passed, the Johnsons and Fiona worked tirelessly to support Karen's recovery. They enlisted the help of mental health professionals, ensuring that Karen had access to the resources and care she so desperately needed. The road to recovery was not an easy one, and there were many setbacks along the way. But through it all, the Johnsons and Fiona remained steadfast in their commitment, offering Karen the compassion and understanding she had been denied for so long. Slowly but surely, Karen began to open up, sharing the depths of her struggles and the overwhelming sense of isolation she had felt. With the unwavering support of her newfound allies, she started to confront her demons and take the first steps towards healing. As the months passed, the transformation in Karen was nothing short of remarkable. The once entitled and abrasive woman had blossomed into a compassionate, self-aware individual, determined to make amends for her past actions and to use her experiences to help others. The Johnsons, too, had undergone a remarkable journey, their initial anger and resentment giving way to a deeper understanding and a profound sense of empathy. They had learned that even the most difficult of people could be redeemed, and that true healing often required a willingness to look beyond the surface and embrace the complex humanity within. In the end, the story of Karen's redemption served as a powerful testament to the transformative power of forgiveness, compassion, and the belief that everyone deserves a second chance. As the months passed and Karen's recovery continued, the Johnsons and Fiona witnessed a remarkable transformation in the once troubled woman. The once entitled and abrasive Karen had blossomed into a compassionate, self-aware individual, determined to make amends for her past actions and to use her experiences to help others. Karen's journey of redemption had not been an easy one, but with the unwavering support of her newfound allies, she had confronted her demons and taken the necessary steps towards healing. The deep-seated mental health issues that had once consumed her had now become the driving force behind her newfound purpose. If it weren't for the Johnsons and Fiona, I don't know where I'd be, Karen said, her voice filled with a mix of gratitude and humility. They could have easily turned their backs on me, but instead, they chose to offer me the compassion and understanding I so desperately needed. Michael and Sarah listened intently, their hearts swelling with a sense of pride and accomplishment. They had come a long way from the fateful day in the park, when their family had been confronted by Karen's entitled and abrasive behavior. Now, they saw before them a woman who had not only transformed her own life, but was determined to use her experiences to make a positive impact on the world. We're just glad we could be there for you, Karen, Sarah said, reaching out to squeeze the woman's hand. It wasn't an easy journey, but seeing the person you've become makes it all worthwhile. Karen's eyes misted with tears, and she nodded, her expression filled with a newfound sense of purpose. I'm going to start a mental health awareness program, she announced, her voice steady and resolute. I want to use my story to help others who are struggling, to let them know that they're not alone and that there is hope. The Johnsons exchanged a proud glance, their hearts swelling with a sense of hope and optimism. They had witnessed firsthand the transformative power of compassion and forgiveness, and they knew that Karen's journey was just the beginning of a brighter future. As the family gathered together, their bonds strengthened by the trials they had endured, they couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the unexpected twists and turns that had brought them to this moment. The story of Karen's redemption had not only changed her life, but had also profoundly impacted the Johnsons, reminding them that even the most difficult of people deserve a second chance. In the end, the legacy of this extraordinary journey would serve as a testament to the power of the human spirit and the transformative potential that lies within each and every one of us.